All right, in this video, I'm going to show you what piercing the corporate veil actually means, when Florida courts will do it, and most importantly, the specific steps you need to take right now to make sure it never happens to you. Because here's the truth. Setting up an LLC or corporation isn't enough. It's what you do after that determines whether your personal assets stay protected or become targets. I'm Santiago Cueto, board-certified international business law expert and best-selling author. And over the years, I've helped countless business owners protect their personal assets from exactly this nightmare scenario. So let's start with the basics. When you form an LLC or a corporation, you're creating what the law calls a separate legal entity. Think of it like building a wall between your business and your personal life. The business has its own bank account, its own debts, and its own legal identity. Now, if someone sues the business, they can only go after the business's assets, not yours personally. That's the whole point. But piercing the corporate veil is when a court says, you know what? That wall you built, it's coming down. And suddenly there's no separation anymore. The court treats you and your business as one and the same, which means creditors and plaintiffs can come after everything you own personally to satisfy a business debt or a judgment. So let me tell you about a case that perfectly illustrates this. A few years ago, I consulted on a situation involving a Florida business owner, we'll call him Marcus, who owned a small construction company set up as an LLC. Well, Marcus got sued after a project went wrong, and the plaintiff's attorney discovered something interesting. Marcus had been using the company's bank account like it was his personal piggy bank. He'd pay his mortgage from the business account, transfer money back and forth with no documentation, and he never held a single company meeting or kept any formal records. Now, when the case went to court, the judge took one look at how Marcus ran his LLC and said, essentially, this isn't really a separate business. This is just Marcus doing business under a fancy name. The veil was pierced, and Marcus ended up losing not just his business assets, but his personal savings too. A judgment that should have been limited to maybe $50,000 in business assets ended up costing him everything. Now, Florida courts don't pierce the corporate veil lightly. They actually start with a presumption that your LLC or corporation should be respected as a separate legal entity. But they'll make an exception when they see certain red flags, and you need to know what these are. The first major trigger is what's called commingling of funds. This is exactly what Marcus did. When you mix personal and business money, when you can't clearly show which expenses belong to the company and which belong to you personally, you're telling the court that even you don't treat your business as separate. So why should they? Now, the second trigger is undercapitalization. This is a fancy legal term that basically means starting a business with way too little money, especially in a risky industry. Now, imagine starting a construction company with just $500 in the bank and no insurance. If something goes wrong and someone gets hurt, the court might say you were setting up the LLC not just to run a legitimate business, but to dodge responsibility. That's when they'll pierce the veil. Now, the third trigger, and this one catches people all the time, is failing to follow corporate formalities. Even though an LLC is supposed to be easier and less formal than a corporation, you still need to maintain some basic structure. That means keeping separate bank accounts, maintaining records of major decisions, and not just treating the business like an extension of yourself. And here's the one that really gets people in Florida: using your business to commit fraud or work in injustice. If a court believes you're hiding behind your LLC to cheat people or avoid legitimate debts, they won't hesitate to pierce the veil. I've seen this happen with business owners who formed multiple LLCs to shuffle assets around and avoid paying creditors. Florida courts, they see right through that. Now, if this information is valuable to you, if you're realizing there might be some gaps in how you've been running your business, do me a quick favor and hit that like button. It helps other business owners find this information, and trust me, this is stuff every Florida business owner needs to know. And make sure you're subscribed, because I break down complex legal topics like this every week in a way that actually makes sense. All right, so now that you know how the veil gets pierced, let's talk about how you keep that wall standing strong. This is the part where I give you the practical steps that will actually protect you. The first and most important, separate bank accounts always. Your business needs its own checking account, and you need to be religious about using it only for business expenses. When you need to pay yourself, you do it through a proper draw or a distribution, and you document it. No more pulling out the business debt card to buy groceries or pay your personal credit card bill. I cannot stress this enough because this is the number one mistake I see. Second, maintain adequate capitalization and insurance. When you start your business, you need to fund it with enough money to reasonably operate and cover potential liabilities. And in Florida, especially in industries like construction, healthcare, or professional services, insurance isn't optional. Get proper liability coverage. The cost of insurance is nothing compared to what you'll lose if the veil gets pierced. Third, observe corporate formalities even if you're a single member LLC. Now, Florida law has relaxed some of these requirements for LLCs, but I still recommend keeping records of major business decisions. Have an operating agreement, even if you're the only member. Keep minutes of important decisions. File your annual reports on time with the Florida Department of State. These formalities might seem like busy work, but they create a paper trail that proves you're treating business as a real, separate entity. Fourth, and this is crucial in Florida's business environment, sign everything correctly. When you sign contracts, sign them in your capacity as a member or officer of the LLC. It should say, John Smith, manager of ABC LLC, not just John Smith. This seems like a small detail, but reinforces that the business is entering into the contract, not you personally. And fifth, don't underpay yourself to avoid taxes. I've seen business owners try to get clever by taking tiny salaries and then pulling money out in other ways. This can trigger veil-piercing issues because it looks like you're not respecting the business structure. Work with a good accountant to structure your compensation properly. And here's one that's specific to Florida and often overlooked. And be especially careful if you're running multiple businesses. Some entrepreneurs create several LLCs for different ventures, which is fine, but you've got to keep each one completely separate. Each needs its own bank account, its own records, its own everything. Don't let one business lend money to the other without proper documentation, and don't share assets between them without clear agreements. Florida courts are particularly suspicious of business owners who create complicated web structures, thinking it looks like you're trying to hide something. Look, I want to be really clear about something. An LLC or a corporation is an incredibly powerful tool for protecting your personal assets. The protection is real and it works, but only if you respect it and maintain it properly. Think of it like a bulletproof vest. It'll protect you, but only if you actually wear it correctly and don't do something stupid like poke holes in yourself. Now, the vast majority of veil-piercing cases I've seen over my career could have been prevented with simple, consistent practices. Keep your business finance separate. Maintain basic records. Adequately fund and insure your business. Follow the basic rules. It's not complicated, but it does require discipline. And if you're sitting here realizing that maybe you haven't done some of these things, don't panic. The good news is that you can start implementing these practices today. Open that separate bank account this week if you don't have one. Review your insurance coverage. Set up a simple system for documenting major business decisions. Talk to a qualified attorney or an accountant about your specific situation. It's never too late to shore up your protection, and doing it now is infinitely better than facing a piercing the corporate veil claim later on. Remember, protecting your personal assets isn't about being paranoid. It's about being smart and being prepared. Now, if you found this video helpful, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel because I'm constantly breaking down legal concepts that every business owner needs to understand. I'm Santiago Cueto, your Florida business attorney. Be sure to watch this next video for more business law insights.